to your normal discussion where we talk about the hard topics uncensored. This is not your normal discussion. This is not your normal discussion.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Not Your Normal Discussion. I am your host, Queen Pedii.
And I'm Nina.
And today we're going to be talking about the Loving.
So the Lovings are amazing. On June 2nd, 1958, a couple named Richard Perry Loving, age 24, and his bride, Mildred Jenner, age 18, went to Washington, D.C. to get married. After that, they went back to Virginia. Richard Loving was a white construction worker, and his wife, Mildred Loving, was a mix of African American and Native American heritage. Because of this, they were breaking the law in Virginia. The law that they accused of violating was the Virginia Radical Integrity Act of 1924. This law prohibited interracial marriage and defined a white person as someone with no discriminable non-white ancestry.
These kinds of laws were not only in Virginia, but in 23 other states. Another word for the law that they broke is miscegenation. It was first introduced in the 1800s, of course, to refer to marriage or cohabitation between two people from different racial groups. So the numerous other states that had this law was Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Delaware, Louisiana, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, Indiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Missouri, Texas, Arkansas, California, Utah, Nebraska, Nevada, Oregon, West Virginia, Colorado, Idaho, Arizona, Oklahoma, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. Although 14 states repealed their anti-miscegenation laws between 1948 and 1967, the law was still being enforced in Virginia, where Mildred and Richard lived.
They were forced out of Virginia and had to live in Washington, D.C. They left with their 3 kids, Cindy, who does not belong to Richard, Donald, and Peggy. Peggy is the only living child as of now.
After spending years in DC, the Lovings came back after their son, Donald, was hit by a car, and they were tired of the city life. The Lovings appealed the decision that they had to stay away from Virginia together for 25 years, and in a unanimous decision, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned their convictions on June 12, 1967. The court ruled that Virginia's anti-miscegenation statute violated both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. In his opinion, Chief Justice Earl Warren wrote, "Marriage is one of the basic civil rights of man, fundamental to our very existence and survival. To deny this fundamental freedom on so unsupportable a basis as the racial classifications embodied in these statutes, classifications so directly subversive of the principle of equality at the heart of the 14th Amendment, is surely to deprive all of the state citizens of liberty without due process of law. The 14th Amendment requires that the freedom of choice to marry not be restricted by invidious racial discriminations. Under our Constitution, the freedom to marry or not to marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed by the state."
So 8 years after that, after they were able to move back to Virginia, Richard and Mildred was in a car, driving, and they got hit by a drunk driver, and Richard passed away then, due to that. And then Mildred, she passed away in 2008.
Upon advice from her cousin, Mildred wrote Attorney General Robert Kennedy to ask for his assistance. Kennedy wrote back and referred the Lovings to the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, which accepted the couple's case. ACLU lawyers Bernard S. Cohen and Philip J. Hirschkopf unsuccessfully aimed to have the case vacated and the original ruling reversed by the judge who oversaw the conviction. When asked her thoughts on the case before the oral arguments began, Mildred said, "It's the principle, it's the law. I don't think it's right. If we do win, we will be helping a lot of people. I know we have some enemies, but we have some friends too. So it really don't make any difference about my enemies." Neither of the Lovings appeared in court, but Richard did send a letter to his lawyers that read, "Tell the court I love my wife, and it is just not fair that I cannot live with her in Virginia." The judges agreed. They also banned interracial marriage and was deemed unconstitutional and overturned them in 16 states, although Alabama would only repeal its anti-miscegenation laws in 2000, you guys, 2000. That's 22 years ago, basing its decision on the due process and equal protection clauses in the 14th Amendment.
There is little doubt about Mildred and Richard's legacy. There's an unofficial celebration on June 12th called Loving Day, honoring the anniversary of the Supreme Court decision and multiculturalism.
The Loving's love story has been so iconic that there have been 3 films made about them. The first one was called Mr. and Mrs. Loving, which came out in the 90s. And the second was a documentary about their life. And the third was Loving, which came out in 2016. I hope you guys have enjoyed our special episode about the Lovings. And like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching. Have a great Valentine's Day, you guys.